28 weeks later, 2007, a very specific time after the rage virus outbreak ravaged Great Britain, NATO deems it safe to start repopulating. The United States Army is brought in for onboarding, every precaution being taken, and every scenario thought through to ensure the safety and comfort of everyone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Our Rating, the show where I get together with two of my friends. We discuss a movie franchise, break it down by movie, give it an overall score, and throw it up on the board to see where it lands compared to the other movie franchises we've talked about. Today, I'm joined, as always, by Will and Brian. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I thought you were going to take a little longer. You don't have a little more intro. This has been a good week for me, so I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty excited to be here talking about movies. I'm pretty tired, but usually talking to you guys pumps me up a little bit. So hopefully we can get through this pretty well. How are you doing, Will?
Always excited to be here. So I'm ready to dive into this movie, really bite into it, if you will.
Nice. Take a bite right out of this one. Was this anybody's first time watching this one? This is my second time. I watched it when it first came out and then yesterday, and that was my only two viewings. What about you, Will?
Exactly the same. I watched it once, thought that was enough, until you dragged me right back into it.
I'm so glad I can force you to watch bad movies multiple times. That's wonderful. I mean, good movies. What about you, Brian?
I sort of watched this. There were parts that I remembered, but the overall movie, I didn't remember it. So I kind of feel like this was definitely my first time sitting through the whole thing. But I don't know, maybe I just watched the trailer a long time ago, but I didn't remember much of this movie because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I didn't really remember plot points in this one, and I did not remember the cast. I was really surprised every time somebody else came on because the first movie, although it has Cillian Murphy and he's famous now, he was not famous at the time that I watched it. Yep. So Brendan Gleeson was the only person who really stepped out. I was like, oh, that guy. This one, there's a really strong cast. Like, you got Jeremy Renner, you got Idris Elba, you got Rose Byrne, you've got the guy whose name I can never remember who played Mercutio in the Romeo and Juliet from 1996.
Harold Perrineau.
Harold, that's the guy.
Yeah,
he's in Lost as well. He's a great character actor. He's in a bunch of things, and yet for some reason his name will not stick with me no matter what I do. What do you guys think of the cast? I know this is a child-led film to some extent, Brian, but do you think they did okay? Do you think the movie was pretty strong overall? Or,
you know what's sad is that they did have some good talent in this film, and I didn't see any of them shine for the most part. Maybe some of them, like Harold, I thought did a great job, but he had this minuscule little role. Honestly, he might have done the best job, but his role was unimportant in the film. And that was kind of the fallback. I think Jeremy Renner played a cool character, but he was just Hawkeye. He was just doing Hawkeye in this film, and I've already seen that. Of course, this happened before Hawkeye, but whatever. Yeah, and then when we get into the child actors, in the first movie, the girl acted like she was on Valium the whole time. This girl was the same way, but even worse. She had no personality, no character whatsoever. She didn't really even start acting or doing anything until late in the film. The little boy was okay. It wasn't terrible. It didn't take me out. But yeah, I think it was just like adequate at best acting levels across the board for me.
That's fair. Do you mirror that, Will? Or?
Yeah, I think it was a similar vibe as the first movie. Like, Jeremy Renner hadn't done a whole lot at this point in his career. So he's relatively new to the scene. Same with Rose. I think Robert Carlyle was probably the biggest name at the time. And then Harold, he's been around for a long time, but not the hugest name as far as acting goes. So I think that was a similar vibe of like, relatively unknown names so that you feel more, I don't know, like you can believe who these characters are maybe without, this big stars are playing this in this movie. But yeah, like Brian, I agree. They weren't given a whole lot to utilize in this movie, I don't feel.
No, that's fair. I recognize a lot of the actors, and it's funny, I didn't even think to look it up until after you mentioned it, because I know them all now. I don't remember. Again, I don't really remember my first viewing. I know that I did see it, and I knew that it had to do with a larger scale of an outbreak, but it was just one of those, like, I just assumed that I knew who Jeremy Renner was at the time, and because I'm such big fans of their work now, I would have assumed. But like, yeah, I'll have to go back and actually check what their filmography looked like at the time.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Renner's big kind of breakout was Hurt Locker, which came out the year after this, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it feels
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
he's
Hurt
played a
Locker
couple
was
of
solid.
not only military guys, but I feel like he's been a sniper a couple of times. You mentioned Hawkeye in the Avengers, obviously this one. I
Mhm.
feel like there's at least one more where he's constantly looking down the barrel of the gun, but it's just a role he seems pretty suited for.
I
Mhm.
did actually like Robert Carlyle in this. I thought he did pretty good. I mean, you hate his character, right? But that
Sure.
shows that that's good acting. That's what you're supposed to feel negatively towards him and his actions, or at least feel very confused about it. I mean,
Mhm.
I was
he's
just about to say, did you hate him before he got bitten?
not really like sort like that was a tough one because
Okay.
he was a coward, right?
Yes,
I
for
don't
sure.
like cowardice. It bothers me a lot. Yet at the same time, that was a very scary situation when he runs away from his wife and that kid, and just continues to run. And I can understand that. But yeah, he's kind of a coward and he did a bad thing. But what was he supposed to do? Die? I mean, he would have died with his wife. He would have
Yeah.
stayed there. You know,
It was like his wife survived by a miracle, but it was an unwinnable situation. And like I kind of felt more not sympathy, but like I guess sympathy. Like I kind of felt sad for him more so than like outright hating him. Like he was just put in a crap situation,
yeah,
and you know what I mean? Like,
Multiple crap situations.
well, sure.
Yeah.
But like if like the wife kind of, I hate to say it like this, the wife kind of did it to herself by going after the kid and like exposing herself in the middle of the room. Like, what are you going to do? Like, he can help her, but then they just die together.
Yeah.
pretty much. Now, what did you guys think about him becoming kind of like the boss villain zombie? Kind of like they didn't
I
make him the king zombie, but he was clearly a centerpiece of the bad vibes that were going on. What'd you guys think of that term? Because in the first one, you had a plague. This
Yeah.
one, you had a plague, but you had him as kind of a focal point.
almost like a
Yeah.
kingpin running things.
Yeah,
I
go
hated
ahead.
it. I hated it so much. The one scene you have where the little boy sees his dad, and then like the army guy walks in front, and then the dad disappears. I was like, okay, if the kids, I don't want to say going crazy, but like seeing things, that's kind of cool. But if the dad is being stealthy, that's really stupid. I don't like
Yeah.
that whatsoever. And we already kind of see the dad being stealthy because somehow he snuck up on military guys and took them out from behind. One
Yeah.
military guy, I swear he walks straight up to the military guy's walking up to him, gun holstered, just like, oh, look, we're here to fight a rage virus. And here's a guy bloody, screaming over the top of a dead corpse. I should probably just walk up and see what he's doing. He almost did the Jurassic Park thing now that I'm thinking about it. He just puts the hand out to like tame the raptor. And I'm just like, what are you doing? You were brought in for this thing. And like the way that the time, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a rant a lot in
No,
this
go
movie.
ahead.
The
Let
way
it
the
out. Let
timeline
it out.
works in this, they say it in the posters, like one day the infection spreads, day 3 this happens, day 15 this happens, and then it gets to day 28 where it's like extermination. Like it takes a while for this thing to happen. So we can assume that the BBC or some news station was broadcasting film for a while. So these military guys should have seen the enemy and known what it looked like. They were not walking in blind. A lot of zombie movies don't have zombies in them, which is why you usually have terms like walkers or the undead or something like that. They're very, very, very rarely called zombies because if you know what a zombie is, you're going to shoot first and ask questions later. In this movie, they know what zombies are, and they still walked up to people like, hey, friend, why are you bleeding all over the place? And it drove me insane. Also, the dad was smart enough to sneak up on people. He was smart enough to play hide and seek with his kid, and he was smart enough to show up at the very end and be like the big bad that bit his kid.
Yeah.
Piss off. I hated
Like,
it so much.
Yeah.
Not even sneak up, just freaking teleport. Let's be honest.
just
Like,
appear.
comes out of nowhere in multiple scenes. You're like, how? Why? What? How? Why? How did he get here? It makes no sense. Like, here's my biggest quip. Well, I've got a lot of quips. This is everything wrong about a sequel. They try to make it bigger, more explosive, more action. And I feel like this was an action movie. I feel like 28 Days Later was a great thriller suspense about a small group of characters and how their characters change throughout the movie. And there's plot holes, don't get me wrong, but I think you can forgive them because you're invested in those characters throughout their journey. This movie, and a prime example is Dan saying, oh yeah, the kid says, I hate you, the infected kid, which was like just a straight up error. It wasn't meant to be in the movie at all. And Dan was like, oh, I felt that was the character hearing that voice as he was doing the action of, disposing of this infected, which is great. You're invested in that character. That's just proof in the pudding right there. This movie, I don't think there's any character you're invested in. And that's a huge problem. The one character that you do maybe feel sympathetic for, Dawn, is like this weird protagonist that you kind of love hate because he's cowardice, which I thought was like the most interesting premise of the movie. And then they just turn him into this not even mindless infected, like a super infected. And so it makes it so messy. And so this is just like a brainless action movie. And that's what took everything away from me compared to the first. I couldn't connect to it.
I completely agree. This movie did everything in its power to take me out of the movie and remind myself that I was watching a stupid action movie. Every 5 minutes, the military is doing something so incredibly stupid. And you're like, I can forgive this in the first movie, or I can forgive this in a World War Z. You don't know what's happening. It's happening for the first time right now. You know what's going on in this movie. It's been happening for 28 weeks. You know what to look for, except for apparently, like the woman says, we don't really understand the virus yet. Like, why are you moving in? Why are you moving back if you don't understand the virus yet? But sure, that's a whole other rant that I could go on. Every 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you're lucky, this movie just does something so incredibly stupid and just rips you out, and the immersion is gone, and you're just like, oh, right, I'm just watching nonsense. After about 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes I thought was actually pretty good. I didn't actually time it, but like
I think the first 20 minutes was the best part as well. I agree with that. I did like how they tried to position the father as a zombie that needed to be dealt with. I always like it when somebody is like, well, this is a person that I used to love and care about, and now I need to shoot them in the head. It's always like, okay, that's tough, or the person who's attacking you is not a stranger. The person who is attacking you is somebody who you used to love and care for, and that creates an interesting dynamic. We've seen it countless times in this genre, though, so it's not a big deal. And they were just trying to add to that, but the way they went about it with his character was just absurd. It didn't make any sense. I wish he was just a regular zombie, and they found a good way to put him into the story during an important scene and make that scene play out more fluidly, rather than this weird juxtaposition of him being kind of a super zombie. I didn't like that at all. And then, yes, the military, they tried to set it up like the military was super powerful, had everything under control, had every contingency planned out, and was ready to do everything. And at every step of the way, everything failed. Like,
yeah.
Well, okay.
Come on, show a couple of victories, show them do a few things right, and give me a better reason why things failed, instead of just everything you thought would work didn't. That's all it amounted to.
The military showed up after the zombies were already dead and revitalized them. Like they literally did nothing right. You know what I mean? Like, and they did everything in their power to bring, like, the kids on their very first day in this complex break out of the complex with no military finding out. And if you watch one of the scenes,
they do.
Oh, sorry, yeah. We'll get there. With the main character getting out. You're right. You got me. But the kids at one point are crawling across the outside of a bridge in broad daylight, and in the next scene, like the one scene, like I'll have to use the visuals to show you what I'm talking about here, but in one scene the camera's looking down, so you can't really see the wall between them and the guards, and then in the very next scene it cuts over and it is a glass wall the entire way along the bridge. Right. They're just crawling beside the guards with glass between the two of them. You're just like, oh, I'm not supposed to be, like, there's no intelligence here whatsoever. This is their first day in the complex. They don't know how those things work. They don't know where the barricades are. They don't know, like, the routes the guards take. Nothing. They just stumble out because that's how incompetent the military is in this movie. And then you're right. Jeremy Renner sees them with a sniper rifle and is like, hey, we got a couple of puppies loose, which is code for kids, I guess. Yeah. And it takes them 3 hours to find them and bring them back to base. Like, why was there not somebody, hey, front gate, walk 20 feet and grab these kids? No, we have to get a helicopter, fly the other half of the city.
Like, it would have been that easy. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to Dawn. You guys hated or you loved Dawn. You enjoyed his character at the beginning. What was your deal with him?
I felt there was an opportunity here, and it didn't pan out the way I wanted it to.
I thought he was interesting. I kept thinking he was the guy from Top Gear, the little guy. I don't know his name.
Oh, yeah.
He reminded me of him a lot.
No, he's the guy from the Full Monty.
Yeah. The opening scene where you've got like a group of 7 people or whatnot surviving. We don't know exactly how long that's been. I don't think it tells us exactly.
I think it says 28 days later. I think that's kind of when it picks up. So around the time of the first movie.
So they've survived for about a month in a house that is made of cardboard, apparently, because the zombies tear through it instantly as soon as they know they're there, right through boards and glass. So I don't know exactly how they survived. They don't seem to have any weapons. They've got pretty decent provisions. Good on them. But I guess they survived by the zombies just not looking in their general direction. Okay. Yeah. They all die very, very quickly. And he runs away. And the problem that I had with the scene is like what the first movie did so well. There it is giving you this sense of autophobia, the fear of being alone. He wakes up in a hospital all alone. He's walking through London all alone. It takes him a while to find anybody. And even when he does, they're not openly friendly to him right away. This movie starts off, he's with a group of people. And then when he finally like loses them, he's by himself, which is way more terrifying. The movie cuts and all of a sudden we're back to the military and like you're in London and he's back with people again. Like there's never that feeling of being alone. I'm trying for a better word, but I'm missing it.
No, sure.
Solitude. There's never a good feeling of solitude that like really gives you what the first movie gave us. Instead, this one is all about being surrounded. It's all about
in fact,
gatherings and whatnot.
Almost
it just didn't work
the
for me.
Other direction, don't they? Because there's the scene when they're down in the bunkers, and it's this claustrophobic scene where it's very dark. It feels like it's an execution chamber of some sort. They're quarantining everybody and locking them away. And then one of the infected gets down there, and it immediately spreads like wildfire, and they're all trapped in there. And the zombies just start pouring out, and everyone's just getting butchered. Now, in the first one, we had a very low body count from zombie attacks. We see very few of those, in fact. And in this one, it was the direct opposite, where it was the zombies were going through people like a wood chipper, and it was grotesque.
Zombies and the military.
Lots of gore and stuff. I was kind of cringing, going like, this isn't like the suspense terror I was looking for. This is just horrific, being trapped in a bunker, being mulched by this zombie plague, and then they come out and the military's just shooting people, and it keeps escalating where they're dropping everybody, and the body count just goes through the roof. I didn't like it. I didn't like any of that. It didn't feel anything akin to its predecessor. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have tried. I just didn't like it. What do you guys think about the horrifying scenes and grotesque violence and huge body count?
So I think the military did more damage to the humans than the zombies did, because that firebomb at the end didn't hurt a single zombie. It killed all of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And like they started shooting the people. And you know what? I'm not even against the military on that point. I think at that point you almost are like, you know what? We have to contain this. The only way to do that is kind of neutralize everybody. But they weren't good at that either. And so the zombies got everywhere. In fact, one of the military guys gave the zombies a free flight over to the mainland. That was smart of him. Anyways, I'm sorry, Will, you say words for a minute.
Well, I think you jumped to the end there a little bit. I think it was a little more complicated than that, but that's okay. We'll get to that. No, I feel 28 days later, the OG earned the gruesome brutality scenes that were mostly at the end of the movie. There was the one at the start where what's her name just
hacks her friend apart.
Hacks up the friend.
Hacks her friend, but I think that was just like a shock of like, oh, this is real and she means business, and that was fine. This movie didn't earn any of it, to the point where Don like gouges his wife's eyes out after he severely beats her. I mean, he's raging, so of course it is what it is, but like it didn't feel earned at all. There was no build up to it. They didn't take their time. They just jumped in, and it just doesn't resonate well when they do that in movies to me. I like the slow burn, the build up, and allowing the audience to be like surprised almost by, oh wow, they went there. Instead of this was just like washing over me like, oh, we're going there again, and we're gonna stay there, have fun. Nope,
Yeah.
not fun for me. And then it
Yeah,
just
it
gets
was-
ridiculous. On top of that, it gets overly ridiculous with the chopper just wailing through
Oh,
guys.
gosh.
I'm just like,
That's
At
how
this
helicopters work, right?
yeah, at this point, it's just a farce. So I mean, it was just too much for no reason. They just never earned it. They never should have gone that way, in my mind. But that's what we got. That's what we got.
So, go
the
ahead, Dan.
code red. Sorry, I'm the code red in its entirety really irked me because you're dealing with a blood and saliva borne virus. It is not airborne. It does not travel to. I mean, they say it doesn't travel to other species. It started in a monkey, but whatever. It doesn't travel outside of primates, I guess. And when the zombie outbreak happens, it's one person. They don't really know that. They kill all the lights, take everybody out of their apartments that have locked doors, put them all into a basement together, kind of sort of lock the doors, and then walk away. And then just like insult to injury, one of the guards is like, oh, permitted to use non-lethal force. Like, I'm sorry, there's a zombie outbreak on the loose. Why are you all of a sudden using non-lethal force? Shoot it. It drove me insane. It was like they wanted the zombie outbreak to happen. And if the turn had been Idris Elba was evil and wanted this to happen, that would have actually made more sense than they were trying to have it under control. I wouldn't have liked it any better, but at least that would have been like, oh, for whatever reason, the American military wants zombies.
He could have just been like, hey, I think this is a bad idea. I'm going to make sure it fails early. There will be a high body count and we'll never try coming back to this city again. We'll quarantine it and we'll make sure no one ever enters this and make it a dead zone. And that was his plan. Then this would have made more sense because that's what it felt like. You put everybody in one place, lock them in, and then a zombie gets in there. It was stupid. It was
they had no chance whatsoever. If you've already got the movie shows you that the snipers can see into the apartment building, leave all the lights on, leave the people exactly where they're, have an announcement. Hey, everybody, there's a zombie on the loose. Lock the doors, stay inside. The military will take care of this. And then you just have the snipers on the outside looking in and be like, oh, they're in apartment 7B. Bam.
Yeah, take them
We're
out.
done here. Cool.
What's going to be
Why turn the lights
off? What's going to be more challenging? Building this underground bunker and snipers' nests everywhere, or just installing metal security doors on all the apartments? Right? That's it. Just security doors on all the apartments. The zombies can't get in. That's it.
There's a lot of plot holes. One of the biggest being, Stone, we got this patient. They could have a cure. No, kill them. Well, you can analyze the dead body, and then they don't. They just don't for no reason, and they don't.
You're talking about the mother?
Up. Yeah, they don't lock her up.
Well,
they don't have security detail on her. Nothing.
Okay,
Stone says, we're going to eradicate her.
Right.
And then they never do. That's end of scene.
Well, okay, so I'll fight back on the tiniest bit because you're absolutely right. She should have a guard on that door. There should be security cameras in that room, literally anything. And instead, Don just walks in. Now, granted, he's running the whole complex, apparently.
He's a janitor that can have access to everything. Sure. Makes zero sense in a military situation.
Absolutely. I'm not going to fight that side of it whatsoever. But I thought those scenes were happening at the same time. So he's talking to the scientist who wants to preserve the body at the same time that Don is walking into the room and getting himself killed. That was my take, at least. So they were like that tiniest thing I'll defend the movie on. The rest of the movie is pure nonsense and absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, and now I'm looking over at the poster next to me. She's got two colored eyes. I don't know why that had... I guess they wanted a visual cue so we could understand who has the immunity or the carrier virus or whatever. But
it's showing that she's got some kind of something different about her.
Yeah, they could have put a bandana on her. I don't care. They didn't flesh that whole idea out. They didn't work with it very well. It was more of just a way for things to happen. Although we already had, like, it's 28 weeks later, really close to it, and she got bit. Or like, how long was she out in the cuts after she got bit? Right?
28 weeks minus 28 days. I'm not great at math.
27
months?
weeks. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Okay,
a long
so
time.
okay, so almost half a year still she was out there, but I just felt like this whole idea of her being a carrier for it was kind of dumb and not planned out very well. It didn't make much sense. I didn't understand if she was genuinely kissing her husband because she was pissed off at him for leaving her and knew he was going to die if he kissed her, or if she was genuinely forgiving him. I couldn't tell in that scene. And it's just, I really didn't like the whole she's immune, she's a carrier, and how they used it. And then the kids are sort of immune and can be carriers too. They just didn't flesh it out very well. I feel like everything in this movie was based around the military shooting people. Like the directors were like, we want a big military shootout against zombies. And then they just came up with stupid ways to make that happen.
Difference between a British-made movie and an American-made movie. I'm just
right. Well, I mean, hey, we've seen them take a film like Alien and go to Aliens, and they made it into a military drama, and it was a major success. It was amazing. But they knew what they were doing, and they capitalized on the characters and grew everything that the first movie started, and they opened it up and added more to it. All this one did was use some of the same tricks of playing the music up when things got scary. Otherwise, they didn't do anything the same.
Yeah, I didn't hate that there's a carrier and, there's potential for cure and all of that. I didn't hate that. I don't know if heterochromia or whatever it's called, the different colored eye thing. I think it's strictly, it's a visual sign. Oh, they're different, so they could do this. They're immune or whatever. I don't think it was well executed. And I think Brian's right. It's too hard to know if the mother wanted to enrage her husband or if she was actually forgiving him. It was because she didn't say anything or do anything. And she didn't answer
if she knew what was going to happen, she knew she was killing herself. Because he was going to rage. She had to have known that, right? But she knew like she wanted him.
But she would want to live because she just saw that her kids were alive.
Right.
Right? So it was really, obviously, in my mind, it makes sense. She wanted to live. She didn't know she would infect them. But she was just told by this doctor that she was carrying the virus. And she obviously knows how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So it made zero sense to be like, all right, husband, I forgive you after you were such a coward and effed everything up for me and us and our family. Let's make out. It made zero sense. Again, it wasn't, that moment wasn't earned in my mind at all.
I have a drastically different take than both of you, and I'm wondering if I'm crazy or just reading the room totally wrong.
Let's hear it.
She has been infected for 5 months. She's the only one we've seen that's a carrier of her type. She looks crazy, whether that's because of the rage virus or because she's been alone for 5 months and eating maggots. I'm not completely sure she was of sane mind at all. Like, we don't see her have a conversation ever after getting bitten by the zombies. She kind of like hugs her kid, but then she's like half ripping him apart, like hugging him.
She looks tightly. A bit haggard, yeah.
And when they're in that room, like she looks either naturally out of it or drugged because they don't know what she is. So I'm assuming they would, they're taking the blood away from her, but probably like, hey, let's give her some morphine or something just to calm this chick down, just in case she does lose it. I think the scene was a little bit, I hate to say the word, but rapey. Like, I don't think she was giving any consent whatsoever. I think he was just going in for the kiss, trying to like absolve himself of the sins that he felt. He felt guilty about everything since the second it happened. I don't think she was forgiving him or knew that he was in the room.
If they would have pressed that, like you say, and I would have been able to catch that vibe easily, I think I would have appreciated the scene a little bit better because that makes more sense to me, what you just described. But I didn't see that. I see the possibility for that, but it should have been clear. And I think that would have been the way to go, because then I would have been like, oh, he's a real piece of trash. He definitely deserves to go zombie. And then it would have felt a little better.
Yeah. No, yeah. I definitely get the feeling he kind of did it to himself.
Yeah, I agree. And I like your take, Dan. And I don't feel like, again, it was put forth in a good way. And I think it was poor direction. And let's just talk about that for a moment. Danny Boyle was slated to direct this film, and I wish that he had. Because I feel like he would have got across these kind of things that we're confused about, or he could have at least bridged the gap in some of these huge plot holes with good direction and focusing on the characters' journeys instead of the action-packed whatever the hell we just watched was. Unfortunately, he was caught up and doing a different project, so he picked this director. I can't remember his name, Juan somebody or other. And if you look at
Carlos Fresnadillo,
if you look at his list
no
of
chance
movies,
to pronounce that properly.
they're few and far between, and I think there's a reason for that. I don't see it in this movie, unfortunately. I think the other big problem is we didn't have the OG writer either. We had 4 different writers working on this, which we know
That's not good.
writers doesn't always turn out well. So yeah, I think that was the problem as well. Not the OG writer, although I can't remember his name. He's really good though. He did Ex Machina, and he's directed a few things. It's going to come to me, but he actually looked at the script and was he was consulted a little bit, but I don't think unless he's actually sitting down and writing it that there was much hope. And I think that showed in the movie itself.
Alex Garland is the name.
Yes, Garland. Thank you.
I did not realize he did Ex Machina. That movie's phenomenal.
Oh, he's done a lot of great things. Yeah, he's written a lot of good things and directed a lot of good things. And spoiler alert, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are coming back for 28 years later, both of them, one writing, one directing. So
good.
I've got
which will be doing right here on the channel in 2 weeks. So come back and check that out. Like and subscribe, all those things.
Woo, 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 woo. Anyway, I think the direction and writing really let this movie down. I think the actors, as we've seen, have come a long way. The actors in this movie, a lot of them have great, successful careers. The direction is questionable throughout, the best scene being the opening scene, which I believe Danny Boyle had some hand in. He was there to help direct portions of it, not a lot of it, but portions of the first scene. And then the rest was just a shit show.
The worst acting was probably the sister. I didn't like her character at all. She was absolutely useless in this movie. She was luggage. She served no point in this film whatsoever.
No. She is the catalyst of this film. She is the reason, like her body count is immense because she starts the virus back in England and she helps get the virus to the mainland. Like her body count is in the millions because if she never, like she talked her brother into leaving to go find a photo of his mom, which led to finding the mom. And then she led the brother to the helicopter, which takes him to the mainland. I'm not saying she was a good actor, but she is the reason the world is to shit. That one character.
But they could have wrote a different reason for that to happen.
Sure.
During the movie, she said nothing and really did nothing, and I didn't like the way she spoke. I hated her acting. I absolutely hated her acting. She had no emotion whatsoever the whole time. She didn't act like a girl her age, much like in the first movie. I didn't like the young girl in that one. She didn't act like a girl her age. It was a weird character. And so this one was even worse, though. At least in the first one, there were moments of a character there. This girl had nothing for me to latch onto whatsoever. The rest of the acting in the film was, like I said, it was passable. It was okay. I just don't think these characters were given the breadth, the width and breadth that they needed to really do anything. Yeah, I think they all did pretty good. Jeremy Renner did a good job in this. He was okay. I mean, like I said, he played Hawkeye again, but it was okay. I liked the character, and he seemed like a person I kind of wanted to follow at least a little bit. And his buddy, the helicopter pilot, was probably one of the better actors in the film and had a role that I was like, I agree with what he's saying. Listen to him. This guy's making sense over here. And then he, uses the chopper like a blender, which is stupid, but not his fault. He didn't write that into the script, So I don't know. I don't know.
Going along the long list of just incredibly poor decisions people make in this movie, the helicopter pilot at the very end, there's 2 kids are coming up to him. He's a military guy. He knows that there's infected. He knows that like people are trying to survive. He doesn't even look the kids over Just
Yeah, to
in
see that
case.
kid's crazy
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. Like the kid's clearly got a bite mark and like crazy eyes, like you mentioned, and he's just like, get in. I'm gonna drive for 3 hours with nobody watching you, just in case. And
This
like,
is
can
why
you just take military helicopters for joyrides? Like, don't they check in on that kind of thing? Like, I wouldn't assume you could just take it and leave.
Well,
Whatever.
I think the military was a hot mess at that point anyway. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
I
Oh.
think in other movies in this genre, you see people who, when they find someone and they have a scratch, a cut, a bullet wound, anything, doesn't even matter if it looks like it was from a zombie, they shoot them on sight. Like,
Yeah.
or at least to make
quarantine
them
or
go
something.
away or whatever,
yeah.
you know? And in this one, yeah, they made really poor choices all of the time. And that's the thing. This whole movie was about them thinking they can control this and being prepared in advance. And they were so absolutely not prepared at all, did not understand what they were doing, had no protocols for any of these situations other than we're going to go to DEFCON 5, Omega Red level, kill everything. Let's firebomb every living human and let the zombies run free, is what I just kept seeing. It's just getting worse, and we're just going to kill more innocent people.
I would love to know how they missed every single zombie with that firebomb. That thing was massive and looked cool. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it looked cool, sure.
Missed every single one. Like, there weren't that many people on the island. Like, I don't get the impression there was that many people to begin with. And then at the end, there's still like dozens and dozens of them running free as zombies. You're like, cool. So you didn't get any of them.
All going the exact direction as our protagonists.
Sure. Why wouldn't they?
Just keeping pace hard. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
and in the dad's case, getting in front of them, predicting where they're going to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we trashed on the film a bit. Is there anything you guys, Will, is there anything you really enjoyed about this movie? Anything they did right, or anything that they at least maybe could have done better, but they were heading in the right direction? He shakes his head no. He's like, no, not really.
I think the only real part that I enjoyed about the movie, we already kind of touched on, and that was Dawn's character. I think it was very cool that they focused on the cowardice and the guilt behind the cowardice of this character. I thought, fear can be a very powerful tool for good and bad, and they showed the bad side of it. And I thought that was really a cool concept. The first movie, they were finding themselves, and where Selena kind of refound her reason for living and hope in living, and that was really cool arc. But they were all really brave characters and really like gung-ho good people that would do anything for their group. So I think it was kind of cool to see the flip side of that in this movie. Unfortunately, it lasted for like the first 20 minutes and then it just became a basket case. So I liked that. I really, really liked that. And I think the first like 20, 30 minutes of this movie is actually pretty okay. But then it just becomes just a disaster and almost not worth watching. Especially when compared to the first movie.
I think that's the hard part, is going straight from the first one to this. If the first movie had been more like this, I'd probably be a little bit more forgiving of this one. Mm-hmm. But the first one is such a freaking masterpiece. And then to go so quickly from that to this just hurt.
And you guys also mentioned it looks pretty good. Like all the big explosions look cool. The gas floating in is kind of neat. Them going into this random car to evade it, obviously stupid as hell. This is all it takes. If the zombies can do this, you're good to go. But it looked cool. And, Renner burning up behind them. That was a fun moment,
Yeah.
Sad.
I was glad they killed him. I wasn't expecting that, and I was glad about that. That was a
yes and no.
Good twist.
Happy and not about that. Again, I think a part of the problem with this movie is you jump from kind of protagonist to protagonist. There's not a through line, so it's hard to like attach yourself to anything.
There's nobody to really care about. Yeah.
First, you have Dawn, who's like this. You kind of love to hate him type of character, but at least it's something. You're interested in his story. And then it goes to hell. And then Renner picks it up. And then his story goes to hell. And then you're left with the kids, which give
nothing to latch onto there.
The weakest performances of the movie. And there's nothing there. And you're like, okay, why am I still watching then? What's the point? Oh, it's just to get the virus off the island. That's the whole point of this at this point. And it's not enough. So yeah, it's cool that they kind of hop and unexpected deaths, but it's not cool because you're left not caring.
Yeah.
No, it's very fair.
Dan, do you have anything you can praise this movie for? Anything they did good?
Yeah, Dan, you're the biggest hater of all of us tonight, I think.
I'm infected with the rage virus myself right now, apparently. So I don't know exactly when the movie stopped working for me. I didn't get the same feeling you guys did with Don with like the love to hate. I kind of just found him interesting. I didn't really love or hate him. He was just an interesting character to me because he's not the stereotypical hero. Like Jeremy Renner is the stereotypical hero. Like he dies for these people he met 5 minutes ago because that's what he's supposed to do. And even Cillian Murphy in the first movie is a more relatable character. Like you could see yourself in that situation where you're just like, what am I supposed to do here? Okay, I guess I just latch on to these people. Don is kind of a conundrum because on one hand, yes, he leaves his wife to die, but on the other hand, what was he supposed to do? Like, there's no saving her. There's just dying.
You can relate to his action, though you want to hate him for it. You can relate to that.
Sure.
I don't want to be a coward, but I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same thing. Like,
right.
you don't know
except I couldn't have outrun the zombies, so I would have died either way.
It made his character real. It made him
exactly
a real person.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to follow him. And then I didn't.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
anymore.
The movie, up until probably when he starts sneaking into the military base, that's probably where the movie really started to lose me pretty hard. I actually enjoyed his character quite a bit. The thing I'd like to talk about is the scene where he's with his kids, right? Like he's so excited to get his kids back. I thought that was actually kind of a brilliant idea that the kids were off the island on a field trip. So they just completely avoided all this. And sure, they probably saw it on TV a little bit, but those kids have no idea what he went through. And I don't just mean like with his wife, but just like for the 28 weeks while he was, or 28 days while he was with his wife, even like the shit show that was. I'm sure it wasn't nice living in that tent with 8 people in chemical toilets, but it wasn't this. So when they sneak out into the city, you kind of get it. They don't know what they're looking at. They don't get it to the same level. But at the scene where he first gets his kids, brings them back up to his house and is like, look, we live in the penthouse. Like, I'm actually important. This is great. And they're like, what happened to mom? Would you guys have told, like, he doesn't tell the truth, but he tells them more than I would tell a 12-year-old. Like, I feel like that scene could have easily been she didn't make it. And instead he's like, they ripped her apart and I was watching. I'm like, holy shit, bud. Like, these kids got to go to bed at some point.
I thought that scene was interesting because he did tell more than I was expecting. I thought he would just lie about it and tell him like, I couldn't save her or whatever and just keep it real simple. But he did tell more, and it gave more opportunity for him as an actor to show some emotion and do a little dialogue with the kids. So I kind of liked that scene, but I was hoping that he would have one of those moments where he's like begging the kids forgiveness and saying, I'm so sorry. I ran away, and just breaks down sobbing. And the kids would be like, it's okay, Dad. You were afraid. This is natural. Yeah. And then I would kind of understand it. Instead, he kind of divulged a lot of information, but still didn't ask for the forgiveness. So it was okay. I don't know. It's kind of hit and miss. I think that's where the movie really started to fall apart for me, is after that scene, I was like, okay, well, that wasn't the way I wanted it to go. And then the whole movie was not the way I wanted it to go.
Yeah, like right after I think the next scene after that is the kids breaking out into the zombie infected part of town.
Yeah.
Okay, we've ripped on this story, because it's very rippable. We talked about the acting. What do you guys think from a technical perspective? Because this movie looks significantly cleaner than 28 Days Later did. But I was watching it, and honestly, it's almost to its detriment.
Yeah,
like somehow this movie, looking like a big blockbuster, didn't feel impressive. Whereas the first movie, which I said was filmed on a potato, and I'm going to stand by that, it gives you that indie film sense where you're just like, how did they make this work? Like it's not that much of a bigger budget. It's 8 million versus 15 million. But like you're watching it, you're like, how did this little script, this unknown actor, how did they clear out London to make this movie? Whereas watching this one, you're just like, yeah, of course they did. It's Hollywood. Like it just didn't feel impressive to me that they did it. Did that work for you guys, or?
It is an action movie.
Yeah, it was an action movie. They
I was like,
sets.
It didn't stand out in a good or bad way, so that's not great. Whereas the other one stood out in a good way, right? Mm-hmm. So you could tell that the time and thought was taken to really make a choice and run with it. Run with it. This movie, it was like, oh, this is what Hollywood does, so that's what we're doing. So you've already like whatevered me in that moment, because I'm like, oh, it's like every other. Actually, it's almost worse because, okay, I'm gonna get it. Maybe I'll get some hate for this. This was shortly after something became really popular in Hollywood, and that is the shaky cam.
That was my next point.
I call it the Bourne Supremacy shaky cam because that's what popularized it. And this movie goes hard into the shaky cam, and I actually despise shaky cam because, to me, Bourne Supremacy is kind of different. They utilize it. Again, they make a bold choice. They run with it, and there's reasons for it. I feel like everyone else who's done shaky cam is because they're lazy and it's the in fad. It's like, oh, we don't know what the action is going to be, but if we just shaky cam, nobody can tell anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I really, 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 really hate that. I despise it. To the point where, like, in the lockdown scene where they're all getting just torn apart, you have no idea what's going on. It's dark, it's flickering, and it's shaky. All three of these things combined just make for a terrible combination, and I hate it. And so you know what? I backtrack. I hate it. I hate this movie.
That was my next point. I was going to talk about the technical aspects. I was talking about the scenery. The next one was like the action. What action we did get was super zoomed in and incredibly shaky, and I couldn't tell you anything that was happening. Like I honestly had to back up a couple of scenes, just be like, what just happened?
I hated looking through the sniper scopes and constantly moving from building to building, and you just see windows flashing by as they're constantly swinging the camera from scene to scene, and you can't see anything. You don't know what's going on. I think the shaky cam, I think any cinematography, when a film comes out with some new style and it's done well and it's popular, like the previous movie did with its kind of, old style look, I think that other cinematographers grab onto that and try to utilize it, not understanding how to utilize it. It's kind of like when you watch a PowerPoint presentation by an amateur and every single transition is a different transition from the box of transitions, and there's a side swipe here and this, and then it's blurry, and then things bounce in. Every single one, because they don't know what they're doing or how to use them for a good effect. Right? Star Wars uses a lot of different transitions from scene to scene, almost to the point where it's a little too much, but it's now like a Star Wars swipe that people are used to seeing when they change scenes. This is just somebody's like, oh, shaky cam cinematography is popular, let's use it, and it's crap. It didn't fit this. You couldn't see what was going on, whereas the other film was amazingly done, where you saw exactly what you were meant to see. In fact, there would be transitions, and they teach you to do this. There's a transition where the main character is at this point in the screen, and when the scene transitions, you need to be looking at this space on the screen because that's where the action starts from in the next scene. And they intentionally put the viewer's eyes in the right spot. And they did that in the previous movie. There's no place you're supposed to be looking in this film because it's all a big, dark, shaky, flashing mess. Don't like it.
The first scene was done well because him running through the field and the camera panning around to see more zombies coming down the hill. Like, it was actually done well and less shaky cam, aside from them in the building. Of course, they were like, whatever. But like that wide open shot of him running away and cutting back to his wife in the window, that was well done. If the whole movie was in that trend, I'm in. Yeah. But it just devolved into shaky cam, disgusting, vomit-inducing.
And honestly, with that opening scene, if that had been shaky cam, but the rest hadn't, I'd have been kind of okay with that because it does kind of give you that weird, like, claustrophobic kind of a feel. Like, you're not really sure what's going on. Like, it happens so quickly. But when every action scene in the entire movie is done like that, it's like, oh, you just don't know how to film this.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
In the beginning, he's panicking and running I can understand a shaky cam right there. It's
Sure.
scary. You don't understand it. But throughout the whole thing, when the military is supposed to have supreme control over the situation, and you're just, the camera's swinging from building side to rooftop to street to explosion, and you can't tell what's going on. And then, you add in ridiculousness with the helicopter scenes and stuff like that. It wasn't good. No good.
All right. My last thing to talk about is the sound. And honestly, I don't know how I would have rated the sound if we hadn't watched the movie last week, because I actually do like the song. I'm blanking on it. Something in a house that they play in this.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Yeah.
I like the song, but Bubba Hotep or Steve was on the show last week and he was mentioning how much they play, and it always just like builds up and builds up and builds up. And I was like, yeah, it didn't really bother me. And then watching this movie, they do it at least twice. And I was like, oh yeah. And like, I'm all for movies having soundtrack. Like, I love the Jurassic Park franchise. Star Wars plays the same music over and over again. But when there's really just one song that just feels like it's always used in the same way, it starts to become less of a theme song and more of just you don't know what else to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I don't know how I would have felt if I didn't discuss the movie with Steve last week, or if it hadn't watched this back to back. But because I did, it doesn't even get the points that it should have for like a good song, but just like, okay, we've heard that one. What else you got?
Yeah, I enjoyed the scoring of the first one, and then this one basically was the same thing, just not quite done as well.
Yeah, just turned to 11.
Yeah.
Again, I think they earned it in the first one. They used it, they utilized it, right? Especially at the end when he's going full rage himself, and that music kicks in, and you're like, wow, this is it. We're going.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is like, oh, here we go. Here's an action scene. Let's throw it in because people are going to connect to it. No,
this is supposed to be tense, right? Play the music.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So again, I just feel like this movie has. I'll talk about it in my rating. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities here.
Oh, yeah. You know what? This movie had a ton of potential. Like, I think it had a pretty decent setup. It's got a great cast. It's got a good concept from the first movie. I theoretically like a lot of things about this. But when the intelligent military is doing things so incredibly boneheaded that an idiot watching the movie is like, that's dumb, that's dumb, that's dumb, that's dumb, it's hard to stay focused. And like you mentioned, like, you change main character every 20 minutes. Like, who am I supposed to care about? Why am I supposed to care about them? Why am I believing this is what would happen? Like, it's really, really hard to stay invested in this one. Honestly, even I like the concept of it, but even the very beginning where they're still burning bodies, they're still taking trash out of the houses. There's the female doctor, the one in charge of the science, is like, we don't understand this virus yet. Why are you bringing civilians in?
Yeah.
Why are you bringing children in? Now, granted, she's pretty anti bringing the children in, but why are you? Even give me a line.
Give us a reason.
Like,
give us a reason.
Like, Germany is sick of having refugees. We got to get these people out of here. Something. But I don't even get the impression that like there were that many survivors from England. Like, I don't feel like they're over flooding the rest of the countries. Like,
I didn't hate that part of it, just because like as people, as society, I think we do rush into things hastily all the time. But because they set it up like, oh, we're on top of it, like the overconfidence, it did like play really odd that they were so not prepared. But I do feel like as society, and I think maybe that's part of like, maybe that's what they're going for, of like, oh yeah, people do this all the time. We're ready to take this back. We're ready to repopulate this place. It's good to go, even though they obviously are not. I didn't hate it, but it also wasn't executed well again.
So let me ask you guys. Dan, you go first on this. What is this movie about?
There's a snarky answer.
Because like you said, Dan, we don't have a main character to follow. We don't have a specific story or reason. The idea of them bringing people back into the city is Swiss cheese. It's terrible. Like, there is no main thing. There's a bunch of ideas in this film, and none of it pans out well.
It feels like this is like, we'll have to see. Like, next week, we're going to be watching 28 Years Later. We'll do a review on that as quickly as we can, and we'll get it out to you guys. So we'll see. It feels like this is the stereotypical sequel in a trilogy where you kind of just have to get from A to C, And so B has to exist. We want to have a world of zombies, but unfortunately, we left the first movie kind of hopeful and with the zombies dying off and contained. How do we get them not contained? 28 weeks later. There's not really a great through line. Like, I'd love to tell you it's about forgiveness because of what the dad does, but he never really gets forgiven, and that's dropped 25 minutes into the movie.
Right.
It's not about,
could have been about the kids' struggle for survival, but it really wasn't. Now, it could have been about one man in the military's attempt to undermine this terrible idea or to properly reinstate order into this city. Either way, it wasn't about that. Not really.
I'm gonna throw a theory out there. I might delete this off the internet fairly quickly, so you have to just be here with me for a minute. This movie came out in 2007, right? So it's being filmed in probably 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
Is the movie purposefully anti-military because of what's going on in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan around this time, showing that the American military is overconfident, jumping into situations they don't fully understand, and they're not handling it well? We do see the little girl has a poster in her bedroom. I just thought of this just now for No Effects, The War on Terrorism, which is a staunchly anti-George Bush and anti-the war in Iraq album. It's probably not a mistake that that's in her bedroom at the time. Is this movie trying to say something about the American military that in 2025 doesn't resonate as much because it's not necessarily how we feel about the American military, but might have been how we felt or some people felt at the time?
It's definitely in there. I think that's definitely hitting on something.
I don't know. It's a thought I had literally 5 seconds ago. I have not fleshed that thought out, but
it's another thing that never really takes hold.
Comes to fruition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me read something to you quick here. This is the detailed description on Disney Plus for 28 weeks later. 28 weeks later, after a virus has wiped out all human life in the UK, the island is declared safe and people start to move back, only to be attacked by thousands who have been infected by a new airborne version of the virus.
What?
What?
A, what? Thousands? B, airborne?
So I believe the initial script idea was that the virus evolves to an airborne type virus, and you pick up like fairly early after the first movie, because in the first movie they're actually slowly dying already, right? You already see it, that they're slowly dying off. And so we pick up and still follow Killian's character throughout, and then they realize that the virus has evolved or become airborne instead. And they scrapped that idea because Killian wasn't available, different things, whatever, what have you. And then they made this movie instead. And somehow that description stuck.
That's funny.
So I think, again, it comes to, I think this maybe comes down to 4 writers, rewrites. I don't know if this film knows what it wanted to be. And I think that's clear in the writing, aside from what Dan took away is a point to get this thing worldwide and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. There's just so many issues that it's just hard to pinpoint what they're going for. Again, to me, I like the smaller personal story of Dawn and what cowardice looks like and how it plays on your guilt, your conscience, and how can you live in this world after that cowardice. I really thought that was a cool starting point that they just kind of threw out the window. And so, like, to me, that's what I'm taking from this movie. That's all I can take from this movie, because all the end is, oh, okay, now we're in the whole world. Let's see what happens. But again, I'm hopeful for 28 years later, because so much is going to be changed now. The whole world changed. And most
honestly,
importantly,
it's a great looking trailer.
And most importantly, the director's back and the writer's back. And so I'm filled with hope that this is just a speed bump in a potentially great franchise.
Hey everybody, it's Dan here. Before we get on to the scores, I just want to say our rating now has a Patreon set up. So if you like what we do here and you want to help support us, head to the link down below and show your support. For the first ever executive producer shout out, I want to thank Real Bubba Hotep. The second he found out that we had a Patreon, he headed over there and signed up right away. He's been a longtime fan, and we really appreciate you. In the future, I'll make sure we do these shoutouts live with Brian, Will, and myself. But for now, I just wanted to make sure that we got it out there. All right, let's get back to the show.
I'm ready to give my score. Are you guys ready?
Go for it.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. This movie got a 61 from me. That went down as we talked about it. I think I initially came into this almost at the 70 mark because even though I really don't like when absolutely unbelievable stuff happens, the chopper scene almost made me get up and walk out of the room. But the rest of the movie was like, okay, this is stupid. It's done bad, but I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. And I had a pretty good time. But as we go over it, I'm thinking more and more about these things that really bothered me to a major degree. And the actual art of making a film, I have to critique them because they just did a sloppy job with so many interesting ideas, not necessarily good ideas, but interesting ideas. And so that's why I'm giving it a 64.
Wait, I thought you said 62.
He said 61 and then said he was close to the 70s. So it started high, went down, and went back up.
Let's go with 61. Sorry, I've got so many scribbles on my notes here. I'm all over the place. Let's go with 61. My original is 61.
I was a huge fan of 28 Days Later, and one of the reasons I gave it as much praise as I did is because I'm not a big zombie fan, and most of the movie isn't about zombies, it's about the characters. And one of the things that movie did really well is it kept giving you little glimpses of hope, taking it away, but then giving it back again to some extent. The movie has moments in it where it gives you severe tension. It introduces fears that you may not have even thought you had. And then all of a sudden it brings it back with like, here's a moment of hope. Here's a good thing. And then it takes away and then it brings it back. And it ends on a high note. Like they end up theoretically getting saved. We don't see the saving, but we can assume that it's there. There's none of that in this movie. It is just zombies killing people from the beginning to the end until the military takes over that job and the military starts killing people. But there's no sense of hope. There's no relief. There's no good thing over the rainbow. It is just dreary. It is dark. It is poorly filmed. It is shaky cam action. It is the dumbest military I've ever seen in a movie, including farce movies. I don't know what on earth they were thinking when they wrote this, but nothing in it is believable. Nothing in it feels realistic. I get that it's a sci-fi movie. I get that it's about zombies, but you can do that. They did it last week with 28 Days Later in a way that made me feel like they respected me, and nothing about this made them feel like they respected me. Every 5 minutes, they did something incredibly stupid that took me out of the movie even more than I already was, and I could not get my footing with this movie. I couldn't figure out what it was going for. Brian just asked what the movie is about. I have no idea. The movie is about making a better trilogy sequel. There's no through line in this one that I can truly see. The acting was probably the highlight at being kind of fun to see younger versions of Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, Idris Elba, actors that I like, but they couldn't really save this movie because none of them were really given anything all that interesting to do, with the exception of Robert Carlyle, who played Don. I had this movie higher like Brian did, and the more we talked about it, and more honestly, the more I talked about it, the more I realized how angry this movie made me and how much I didn't like it. So when it started off in the 60s, it fell all the way down to, I have it as a 44. This movie is not a pass for me. There's nothing in this movie that I want to revisit. There's nothing in this movie that I thought was well done. I can't even give it props for sound because it just steals the soundtrack from the first movie. I can't give it props for cinematography because it doesn't draw my interest the way the first movie did, or look particularly interesting because I can't see what the action is. I can't give it props for the plot because it's terrible, and I can't give it props for enjoyment because I wasn't enjoying it. There's not really anywhere this comes across well. There's no saving grace to this movie, and honestly, I'm even thinking of 44 is too high.
Wow.
Dan dropping the hammer. I love it. Wow.
Why is it like, as I was even saying, like, why is it even as high as 44? Like I've shit on other movies harder than this, but
that's so funny. Well said though. Well said. I mean, I don't know what I can add to my final statements that haven't been said already. These two covered it quite well. The biggest problem with this movie is that 28 Days Later happened, and it set a gold standard that there is no hope of this living up to without the original director or writer. And proof's in the off-putting. I don't know. This thing, I didn't even rate this as like a horror thriller suspense movie. I rated this as an action movie. As a standalone, if I think of this movie outside of the 28 Days Later franchise, it's a meh action movie. It's like, it's watchable. There's fun moments. The opening scene, great. Some of the elements they have throughout are pretty interesting. It just doesn't all come together. It doesn't mesh. It just has too many writing problems, not enough character driven for my liking. It's not I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just not a good movie. So for me, as far as like a franchise continuation, it's a 64 out of 100. I like that it talks about the virus and that it does evolve it in some ways. It just doesn't do it well enough to hold interest. And it pales in comparison to the original, which, as we all know, just like propelled the Fast Zombie into overuse, like disgustingly overused for the next 20 years. And you can't fault it for that. It was that well made. You can't fault it. You just have to live with it. So go watch 28 Days Later, everybody. It's a great movie.
I had to keep that little cackle going at the end. I'll just wait till he stops and go from there.
Yeah.
I'm shocked a little bit, but okay.
I'm pretty shocked that my score is the highest. It's just like, it's filmed well enough. The shaky cam, I'm not a fan of, but a lot of people like. So like, I feel like I have a personal bias against shaky cam that a lot of people don't share my hate on for. So I can't like discredit it that much. But to me, the direction and the writing were the worst part of this movie, and that got hit the worst. But as like an action movie, it's okay. It holds up as a whatever action movie to me.
Wonderful D in chat is saying, you know, he thinks some of the 60 scores were kind of high because we were trashing it. And I think the reason we came down so hard on this is because we had such high expectations coming off of its predecessor.
Absolutely.
64 Green Tech, and I put in a 64.
And that's like, Will put it perfectly. Like, the worst thing that happened in this movie was that it followed 28 Days Later.
Yeah. Expectations were too high. But I agree with Will. I think that it was done okay. It's definitely not a good movie, but it's not bad. If you like zombie films, if you liked 28 Days Later, if you want to see 28 Years Later, check it out, I guess.
Yeah. If you're a gore fan, you'll probably like this. If you're an action fan, you'll probably get by.
I spent $4 renting this film, and I don't think you should spend $4 renting it. I don't think I think this is if you can watch it for free. Go ahead and check it out if you got nothing better going on.
I agree.
But don't spend money on this.
I mean, and we've talked numerous times that like as a franchise, like 65 is where you want to be at if you want to actually watch a film in the franchise.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be at least of quality to keep up with the rest of the movies in that franchise. Mm-hmm. And this one I think falls
just a little short of it, yeah.
All right, and so that lowers the score not as much as I thought it was going to. You guys scored a little higher than I had anticipated. Brings it down to a 70, below Mad Max, putting dollars back up on top. And we don't know what the next movie's about. It's going to be a first-time viewing for all of us. All we've seen is the trailer. There's not even any reviews from other, professional people out there. So I have no idea what we're looking at for the next one. I'm hoping it can at least stabilize or even bring the score back up a little bit. I really do have higher hopes for the next one than I did for this. What do you guys think? Is this kind of where you were hoping this would land? A little high, a little low?
This feels high to me, honestly. I really liked the first movie, but the second movie was so not good that I don't feel like as a franchise so far that it should be above Predator, above Jurassic Park, above Evil Dead. Gremlins, sure. Jurassic World, Venom, sure. But boy, it feels a little high to me. That's the first time I haven't really liked where it played out.
Yeah, it doesn't for me. Again, it's the numbers game. It's only 2 movies. One was like whatever. It was okay. It was watchable almost. But one was great. So that great movie is holding it right now.
Yeah.
The power of a heavy carry.
Exactly. So if the third movie comes in as meh, it is going to drop into like the Gremlins territory. But I'm hoping that it actually maybe pops it above Mad Max if possible.
Yeah, I agree. I really do hope
Oh.
between Danny Boyle coming back and like the look of that trailer, not only the look of the trailer, the song, whatever that is they play in the background, that chanting just gets me. Like that just works
I'm
for me so
hoping
hard.
we get a movie that lands like in the 90s, 95,
Mhm.
98. I want a fantastic film. I want a film that's so hard for me to critique that I'm like scrolling through the bottom of the dregs to come up with something I don't like. I want it to be amazing.
There-
We rarely have late entries in a franchise that hit high numbers, and I'm hoping we do this time. I don't think we will, but I'm hoping.
So, out of curiosity, do not say it. But is there a movie franchise you can think of, regardless of the other two people's scores, that you would put in the 90s? The entire franchise, not just the first movie.
I don't know if it'd be
Actually-
all 90s, but I can think of a couple franchises that would be 80 and above, probably.
Yeah.
Why don't you-
For all movies.
Okay. I can think of one. I can think of one franchise, and unfortunately, it's not done yet. That's the only clue I'll give you. If the series sticks the landing, don't even guess. The audience can guess. If the
Jurassic
series
World
sticks the
Rebirth,
landing,
baby.
it could easily be my favorite franchise of all time.
Okay, cool.
But we have to see if it sticks the landing. Anyways,
yeah,
Brian, you?
I'm thinking about franchises, and I'm like, yeah, that franchise deserves to be at the top, except for that one movie.
Yeah.
There's always this one. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, Rise of the Machines was not good in the Terminator franchise.
well, there's a couple bad Terminators.
There's a couple
at this
Terminators.
point.
Let's gonna pull it down,
Sketchy.
you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's just like it's the nature of the franchise, right? Like it's so hard to be that consistent. But I hope we find a
Yeah.
couple of those gems,
And
which
I'd
I think
tell
we
you
did
what,
find in the Dollars trilogy, right? I think we found one franchise that was like, is it a franchise? Sure. But they were all really good movies, you know?
Yeah. I think that for sure we're going to have 100% fun going over all of these franchises in the future, because I very much enjoy coming in here and rating these films that, I don't know, maybe other people don't want to hear about Gremlins or 28 Weeks Later or, go back to Star Wars or something. But I love talking movies with you guys, and I learned something about these films. And
okay, here's a fun game. Or maybe it's not. Who knows? Whatever. We'll figure it out. I'll take it out in post. If you had to guess without looking, I don't know if either of you have, based on YouTube viewers, what is our most popular franchise that we've done? And I'll bring it back up so you can actually see all the ones we've done.
Please tell me it's not Home Alone. Please tell me it's not Home Alone.
The most viewed, like,
of this off the top of my head. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but if from what I remember of what we're seeing. So, and the only one we're not showing right now is Highlander. But out of everything we're seeing, what do you think is the one that got the most people to tune in as a franchise?
Overall, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something cheesy like Home Alone or Never Ending Story or something. Oh, no.
Well, Never Ending Story is not on YouTube yet, so that's not even an option.
Oh, okay.
I might.
We skipped it so I could get this one out fast because I want it to be out for the movie.
I think Dollars Trilogy, actually. I think there's a huge fan base. Just like country music is super duper popular, even though I don't listen to a lot of it. I think that Westerns are super duper popular, and so I think Dollars Trilogy has a chance. I also think Home Alone has a chance of being one of those that just hits the algo for some reason.
Yeah, mine might be Predator, just because like there's a new one out now. There's another one coming. Prey kind of revitalized it a little bit, got people talking. So maybe that's where I would go, but I really don't know. I don't know YouTube or algorithms or any of that baloney. So
neither do I, apparently. So from memory, Home Alone did very well, the first one. The second one, not so much, but it's also been out for a week. The Dollars Trilogy, not doing very well at all, but again, they've only been out for a short amount of time. Predators did very well. Like the bad one. Like
Predators?
Predators.
did very well,
Cody-
and all the other ones did good. So I think honestly, I think it is Predators. I'd have to go back and
Oh,
actually check the
man.
numbers, but it's one of those like, really, this one?
Could it
Okay.
be because we've got a new addition into that franchise coming our way?
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
I mean, unless people like heard the news a year ago, but that video did well right away. Like, who knows? Maybe it's just the stupid algorithm thing.
Yeah,
maybe it's
maybe
just
it was
people
a
love to
lucky
hate
hit.
it.
Yeah, maybe too.
Who
That's the
knows?
thing is,
But
like,
it was one of those weird, like, really? Okay. And I mean,
think,
when I say really well, keep in mind, this is our rating. We're like, really well is over 100 for me. Like, hey, but that would hit like 600. I was like, cool.
We're just having fun here, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
I think, I don't know if it was Green Tuckin was like, hey, oh, you guys' scores were higher than I expected based on the thrashing you gave this movie. I think that is fair. That's a fair, like, sounds weird that we rated so high, except for I think Dan was like, fuck this movie.
This is the first one. Brian has said many times, I'm offended by this movie. And I'm like, really? A movie? And this is the first time I'm like, got it.
Okay. I know what you're feeling. Now I know what you're feeling. I'm not sure who it was in chat. Somebody was.
Demelian, I think.
Okay, yeah, Dem, sorry. And I can see why that's surprising, but also not. Just like, again, the first movie was so great that even a movie that was like so-so, like this one was, there's not much good to say about it because it just doesn't compare to the first one. So everything we're going to say is going to be subpar compared to the OG source material. But it doesn't mean it was like a horrendous movie.
Yeah.
Dan does think it was a horrendous movie, which is it was totally a fair take. 100%. I am not against your take at all.
I even want to say like it was competently made. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, it was pretty competently made. And then I think about it, I'm like, which part? Like after the first 20 minutes, which part am I saying was competently made?
Yeah.
And I don't know what to tell you.
But to me,
I don't blame the actors. That's the one thing I'll say. I don't blame the actors.
To me, this feels like Jurassic World. It's just another popcorn action movie that doesn't do anything for me. Is it
fair?
Is it good? No. Is it bad? Not really. It's just not great. The writing is bad. The directing is not great. Actually, the writing is okay. The directing was just bad in this movie for me. That was the biggest hit.
I do feel like there were a lot of scenes that I didn't understand what they were trying to go for, and I think that is 100% on the direction. When you have a scene, because like whoever directs the scene can make the scene go one way or the other and make you feel differently about it with the same exact script, same actors,
100%,
all that.
100%.
And so I felt there were many scenes in this where I'm like, I'm not sure where they were going with that, especially when he's kissing his wife getting infected. I don't know where they were going with that. That's bad direction.
Yeah, I agree.
Will, I'm just going to let you know it is 10 o'clock. You said you had a very hard out. If you got to bounce,
yes, I see the time. Yeah, I got like 2 minutes and then I'm going to bounce. But
okay, I'll do my outro after you're gone because no offense, you don't need to be here for that. But we'll just keep going. I just didn't want to get you in trouble. I don't know what your out is, but I didn't want to.
No, I appreciate the time check. That's greatly appreciated. But yeah, I just think, I just think the moral of what I don't know why I'm even talking anymore. We nag on this movie hard because it wasn't 28 Days Later.
Or good. All right, that was our rating of 28 Weeks Later. What do you guys think? Were we way too harsh on this movie? Is it a lot of fun and I just didn't see it? Let me know in the comments down below. Anything you want to say or write would be greatly appreciated. If you made it this far in the video, please consider hitting the like button or hit subscribe if you want to see more great content so I see you in the next one.